Luke walked fast along the wet sidewalk, carrying his worn backpack and holding Sammy's small hand. The rain fell hard, and he felt tired after a long day at the factory. Bills were piling up, and he worried about rent and groceries. Sammy kept asking questions, and Luke tried to answer without sounding too stressed. They reached the corner near the park when Luke noticed a woman struggling to walk. Her ankle bent at an odd angle, and she was trying to balance on one foot. Her expensive shoes were soaked, and her coat did not cover her completely. She looked around for help but hesitated to ask anyone. Without thinking, Luke ran toward her. "Are you okay? Let me help," he said. The woman looked surprised and nodded. Luke bent down carefully and lifted her in his arms. Sammy watched wide-eyed, holding his father's hand tightly. "Thank you," the woman said, trying to smile through the pain. She did not expect a stranger to be so kind. Luke felt a small smile in return. "Where do you want to go? I can take you somewhere safe," he asked. She pointed to the nearest cafe just a block away. As Luke carried her, the rain soaked his jacket, and his arms ached. He did not complain. He was used to hard work, and did not mind helping someone in need. Sammy ran beside him, trying to keep up and giggling every time his father slipped a little on the wet ground. Inside the cafe, Luke carefully sat the woman down and asked the manager for an ice pack. She winced, but thanked him again. Luke sat across the table, drying his jacket and sipping a cup of cheap coffee he bought from the machine. He glanced at her and said, "Do you need me to call someone?" She shook her head. "I can manage, but I really appreciate your help. Not many people would stop in this rain," she said. There was a softness in her voice, a mix of pain and gratitude. Luke shrugged. "It is nothing. I just wanted to help." Sammy watched quietly and asked the woman, "Are you hurt badly?" She smiled gently. "A little, but your dad is strong and saved me from falling more." Luke laughed softly, shaking his head. "I am not a hero," he said. The woman Claire looked at him with curious eyes. She noticed the tired lines on his face and the way he kept checking Sammy. There was care in his every movement. She felt something strange, a pull she could not explain. In her world, most people ignored her or only looked at her money. This man treated her like a normal person. They talked quietly while she rested. Luke asked simple questions like her favorite drink and if she lived nearby. She answered carefully, hiding details about her job. She wanted to know more about him too, how he lived, how he cared for Sammy alone, how he managed to stay calm under pressure. After a while, she tried to stand, leaning on Luke for support. "I think I can walk a little," she said. Luke nodded but stayed close, ready to help. Sammy cheered softly, happy to see his dad and the woman smiling. Before leaving, Claire handed Luke a card. "Just in case you ever need help," she said with a small laugh. Luke took it, puzzled. "Thank you," he said. He did not know why, but he felt a strange connection to her. She watched them leave, feeling her heart beat faster than usual. She had met many people in her life, but none had made her feel this way. As Luke and Sammy walked back into the rain, he did not notice her watching. He was focused on keeping Sammy dry and thinking about dinner. But in Claire's mind, the image of him carrying her and caring for his son stayed. She knew something had changed inside her. For Luke, it was just a simple act of kindness. But for Claire, it was the start of something she never expected. A meeting by chance, a small gesture, and a rainy evening had begun a story neither of them could forget. Luke and Sammy returned home, wet and tired, but Luke could not stop thinking about the woman he helped. He did not know her name yet, but something about her smile and calm voice stayed in his mind. He shook his head and told himself to focus on bills and homework, but a small part of him wanted to see her again. The next morning, Luke woke early to get ready for work. Sammy was still sleeping. He made a quick breakfast and checked the calendar for his shifts. He felt the weight of responsibilities pressing on his shoulders. Every day was a struggle, but he loved his son and wanted to give him the best life he could. While he was leaving, he saw a small envelope slipped under the door. He picked it up and found a note from Claire with her number and a short message. It said, "Thank you again, and hope your son is doing well." Luke felt a warmth in his chest. He did not expect her to follow up. He folded the note carefully and put it in his pocket. Later that week, went to the small park near the cafe to let Sammy play. He sat on a bench, watching his son run and laugh, when he noticed someone sitting nearby. It was Claire. She waved softly and stood up, walking toward him. "Hello again," she said. Luke stood a little nervous. "Hi," he replied. Unsure what to say, Claire smiled. "I thought I could repay your kindness with a small coffee treat," she said, pointing to the cafe across the street.
Oh.
Luke hesitated but nodded. Sammy ran ahead happily. Inside the cafe, Claire ordered simple drinks for them. She sat across from Luke, studying him quietly. Luke, feeling shy, focused on stirring his coffee. He noticed she was not talking about herself much. She asked him about his son and his work. Luke spoke honestly but without details of his financial struggles. He did not want to worry her or seem weak. Claire listened carefully, impressed by how calm and responsible he was. She noticed his tired eyes, but also his patience. She wanted to know more about him. The real him, not the man the world might judge by his clothes or small apartment. She laughed softly at a story Sammy told, and Luke smiled, feeling a comfort he did not understand. After coffee, they walked outside. Rain had cleared, leaving puddles on the street. Luke helped Sammy step over them, and Claire watched, her heart beating faster. She wanted to ask him to meet again, but she was unsure how he would react. She did not want to scare him with her world. Luke, on the other hand, found himself talking freely with her. He asked simple questions about her favorite places in town and small hobbies. Claire answered with care, keeping her life private, but sharing enough to connect. They laughed at small things, like a dog chasing a squirrel and Sammy running in circles. As they parted, Claire smiled and said, "Thank you for today. It was nice to meet you outside the cafe." Luke nodded, feeling a strange happiness. He waved goodbye and held Sammy's hand tightly, walking back to their small apartment. That night, Luke thought about Claire while tucking Sammy into bed. He wondered if she would call or come back. He did not know her life or her world, but he knew he wanted to see her again, felt something unfamiliar, a hope he had not felt in years. Claire, meanwhile, returned to her large office, still thinking about the small dad and his son. She had met many people, but few had touched her heart. She smiled quietly, knowing she wanted to see him again, to know him more, and maybe let him know the truth about who she was. Their simple meeting and shared coffee had begun something neither expected. It was more than chance, more than kindness. It was the start of a connection that could change both their lives. Luke's days were busy and heavy with work. He woke early, cooked breakfast for Sammy, and left for the factory. Evenings were filled with homework and bedtime stories. Yet his thoughts often drifted to Claire. He wondered about her life, what she liked, and why she had smiled at him so kindly. Told himself to focus on reality, but a small part of him hoped to see her again. One afternoon, Luke took Sammy to the park to let him run and play. The swing squeaked as Sammy pushed himself higher, laughing loudly. Luke sat on a bench and watched, tired but happy. He noticed someone approaching, carrying a small bag. It was Claire. She smiled when she saw them. "Hi," she said. Luke stood quickly. "Hello," he replied, surprised but glad to see her. Sammy ran ahead to greet her. "Hey," he said, tugging her hand gently. She crouched to shake his hand like a game. "Nice to meet you again, Sammy." They walked slowly through the park, talking casually. Claire asked about school and homework, and Luke told stories about Sammy's funny mistakes and small victories. She laughed freely, enjoying the simple world Luke lived in. It was very different from her world of meetings and money, and she liked the change. After a while, Sammy tripped on a small stone. Luke rushed to him, holding him close. Claire watched and felt a sudden warmth. She noticed how he handled his son with patience, how he never scolded harshly. She admired him silently. She wanted to tell him something, but she stayed quiet, not wanting to complicate his simple life. Luke noticed her looking at him. "Are you okay?" he asked. Claire nodded. "I am fine. Just watching," she said, smiling. The moment felt quiet and important. Neither spoke much, but both felt connected. Later, Luke offered to buy ice cream for Sammy. Claire agreed and they walked to a small shop nearby. They all sat on a bench outside, eating ice cream and watching people pass. Sammy made funny faces, causing both adults to laugh. Claire felt a happiness she rarely experienced. She realized she liked being near Luke, not for his looks or life, but for who he was. Weeks passed, and Claire found small excuses to meet Luke and Sammy again. Sometimes she visited the park, other times she found the same cafe. Luke began noticing her presence, and felt a strange comfort. He enjoyed her company, but also wondered about her life. She was polite and kind, but he sensed there was something she did not share. One day, as they walked through the park, Claire asked softly, "Luke, do you ever get tired of doing everything alone?" He thought for a moment and said, "Yes, but I have to. Sammy needs me, and I want to give him the best I can. Sometimes it is hard, but it is worth it." She nodded, impressed. "You are a strong man. Not many could do what you do." Luke smiled, feeling shy at the praise. He looked at her, noticing how genuine she was. He wanted to know more about her too, but he stayed careful. He did not want to seem weak or make things complicated. That evening, Luke and Sammy walked home in quiet satisfaction. Sammy chattered about ice cream and games. Luke thought about Claire and the quiet moments they shared. He felt a spark he could not explain, a feeling that maybe life could be brighter with her in it. Claire, back in her office, looked at the small note Luke had given her earlier. She touched it lightly and smiled. She knew she wanted to be part of his life, not as a CEO or a wealthy woman, but as someone who saw him for who he really was. She could feel the bond growing stronger, simple yet powerful. Their lives were different, but every meeting, every laugh, and every small shared moment made the connection deeper. Both knew the next steps would be important, but for now, they were happy in the small, simple world they shared. Claire decided it was time to invite Luke to something special. She wanted him to see her world, but without pressure. She sent a simple message asking if he would like to join her at a small charity event she was helping organize. Luke was hesitant. He worried about being out of place, dressed in his work clothes among wealthy people. He finally agreed because he wanted to do something different with Sammy. On the day of the event, Luke prepared carefully. He found the best shirt he owned and brushed his hair. Sammy was excited, bouncing around as they left the apartment. Luke felt nervous as they entered the hall, filled with elegant decorations. Soft lights and people dressed in expensive clothes. Claire noticed Luke immediately. She waved, smiling warmly. She wanted him to feel comfortable. She introduced him to a few people politely, but she kept him near her, making sure he was not overwhelmed. Luke tried to smile and engage in small talk. He felt awkward but managed to answer questions politely. As the evening continued, Luke overheard some people mention Claire's position as a CEO. His heart sank. He felt a mix of surprise and doubt. He wondered if her interest in him had been real, or if she was just curious about a man from a different life. He became quiet, avoiding eye contact, worried he might look out of place. Claire noticed his silence and walked closer. She put a hand gently on his arm. "Luke, are you okay?" she asked. He looked at her, struggling to speak. I did not expect this. It feels strange. I am not used to this world," he said honestly. Claire nodded. She took a deep breath and spoke carefully. "I wanted you to see where I work and what I do, but none of this matters for me. I like you because of who you are, how you care for Sammy, and how you treat people. Nothing else matters." Luke listened, feeling a weight lift from his chest. He had worried for nothing. She truly saw him for who he was. They spent the rest of the evening together, slowly. Claire introduced Luke to a few more people, but she let him remain himself. Sammy ran around the hall with a few children, laughing loudly. Luke watched his son, and then looked at Claire. Her eyes met his, and he felt a warmth and honesty he had never felt with anyone before. After the event, Claire walked them to the car. She smiled softly and said, "Thank you for coming. You were brave and patient. I'm proud of you." Luke felt a mix of relief and happiness. He smiled back, feeling a connection stronger than ever. On the drive home, Luke thought about Claire's words. He realized he cared for her more than he had admitted. He liked her courage, kindness, and honesty. He liked how she made him feel important without expecting anything. Sammy fell asleep quietly in the back seat, and Luke looked at Claire, feeling peace for the first time in a long while. Claire, sitting beside him, smiled quietly. She was happy he had seen her world and still stayed himself. She wanted him to know the truth fully soon, but she also wanted him to understand that love between them did not depend on wealth or status. That night, Luke tucked Sammy into bed and thought about Claire. He felt hope he had not felt in years. Claire returned home, thinking about the little dad who carried her that rainy evening. She knew the bond had grown stronger, and soon it might change both their lives completely. Their story had reached a turning point. Misunderstandings were cleared, feelings were stronger, and the path to love had opened. Both of them knew the next step would test their courage, but they were ready to face it together. Luke woke early and made breakfast for Sammy. He thought about Claire and the evening at the charity event. He realized he cared for her deeply and wanted to be honest with his feelings. Sammy chatted about school while eating cereal, and Luke smiled, feeling a sense of peace. Later that morning, Claire called. She suggested a walk in the park with Sammy. Luke agreed, happy to spend more time with her. When they met, Claire greeted him warmly, smiling at him and Sammy. She had a small picnic ready, just simple sandwiches and juice. Luke was surprised and touched. He had expected nothing fancy, only a moment together. They walked slowly, enjoying the sun and the laughter of children around. Claire reached out and held Luke's hand briefly. He felt a warmth that made his chest tighten. He looked at her, unsure if he should speak first, but finally he said, "Claire, I need to tell you something. I like you. It's more than I expected. More than I should probably say." Claire's eyes softened. "Like you too, Luke. I have since the day you carried me in the rain. I saw how kind and strong you are. I never cared about money or status. I like you for who you are." Luke felt a weight lift from him. He smiled, feeling relief and joy. Sammy ran ahead to play, leaving them a quiet moment together. Luke reached out and took Claire's hand firmly. "I want to try this, whatever it is, together," he said. Claire nodded. "Me too," she said. "I want you and Sammy in my life. Not as a CEO, not as anyone important, just as us." They smiled at each other, feeling a connection stronger than any challenge they had faced. Weeks passed, and their bond grew stronger. Claire visited often, helping with homework and sharing simple meals. Luke showed her the small joys of his life, the way Sammy laughed, and the little routines that made their home feel full. Claire loved every moment, feeling part of a real family. One evening, they sat on the park bench watching the sunset. Sammy had fallen asleep in Luke's arms after a long day of play. Claire leaned on Luke's shoulder, feeling safe and happy. "I never thought life could feel this simple and right," she whispered. Luke kissed her forehead gently. "Sometimes the best things are simple," he said. They began planning small adventures, like picnics, movie nights, and walks in the quiet streets near Luke's apartment. Both knew challenges would come, but they trusted each other. Luke had never imagined someone like Claire would care for him, and Claire had never imagined someone like Luke could teach her to love in a simple, honest way. One day, Luke received a small note from Claire. It said, "Thank you for showing me life without walls. I love you," he smiled, feeling tears in his eyes. He wrote back, "Thank you for seeing me. I love you too." The story reached a peaceful rhythm. Mornings filled with laughter, afternoons with walks, and evenings with stories and smiles. Luke, Claire, and Sammy became a family not because of wealth or status, but because of love, trust, and care. The small act of carrying a stranger in the rain had changed their lives forever. It was not about chance. It was about hearts meeting at the right moment. Luke looked at Claire and Sammy one evening, feeling a deep joy. Life was not perfect, but it was theirs, simple, honest, and full of love. And in that small, quiet world, they knew the future would be bright. The bond between them had started with kindness, grown with trust, and blossomed into a love neither expected but both cherished completely.